this is wonderful to see. Pay respects now to the family. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I'm Barbara, the daughter of Flora Biegler. I was born in Liverpool in England in 1955. I only lived there for 5 years, so I was very young then, didn't really understand where my family were from, not until I was older. But we then moved again through my father's work to Coventry, and it was then when family used to come and visit, the family that were left. At that point they were baptised into the Church of England, so there wasn't a Jewish way of growing up, and they would only speak German to each other. That I understood that there was a lot of serious things that I didn't know about.
And they did not want you to learn German or to speak German?
No, when I was at school I learnt German and I passed my exams, and my father said, that's it, no more now. If there's ever another war, I don't want you to be able to speak German. So I had to stop.
Maybe you can talk about the family picture?
Oh gosh, I didn't see that there, yes. Yeah, oh, well I have this photograph in my box of photographs. And aren't they a lovely looking family? Grandparents, Ida and Alois, Yimmer, Ella, is that Ella, that one? And Marta and Laura, and she looks very cheeky and very naughty there already, doesn't she? And that was before my mother was born, and when my daughter Christine Googled Alois, the picture appeared. I said, they're on the internet, our family's on the internet. And so I had a look and said, oh my God, I've got the picture. Daughter Christine Googled Alois Biegler and found a book that had been written by you, Friedrich Pollerosch. And so I emailed you, and then the exposition and everything came to light. And before COVID, and we were going to come and see the exposition then, but now we've got the chance. Yeah.
So you did know that they came from Austria? Or?
I did know where they came from, but I didn't know
The circumstances.
the circumstances of their escape and why, and nothing that you could piece together as what happened to them and when it happened and where. And they made me feel like I couldn't ask them. They told me they met at a Sunday school in London when they came here, but they didn't say when or where, but that's how they met. My mother never spoke about it. My father certainly didn't speak about it. In fact, he was adamant that there should be nothing in the house in connection with the war. If there were television programmes regarding the war or Hitler, he switched the television off. So there was no sort of education about that. And it was quite sad. And in the latter years, I sort of recognised things with his meals. Everything was uniform. He would have his meal on his plate, and he would have a piece of meat, potato, vegetables, and he'd put it in uniform shapes, and he would eat around the plate, which I just thought was perhaps that's because of whatever happened to him before or during the war, that everything had to be in order and correct. There was quite a lot of pressure to be under, really, to almost conform to his way of thinking. He was very traumatised, and quite understandably. He wouldn't talk about it. My sister does know, but she won't talk about it, other than, I believe, that my father was taken to Dachau, and he he was escaped. Somebody rescued him, or people rescued him in a hay cart. I don't know if that's true or not. He told us a bit about his history of being in the army after the war, in that they were in London, in Kilburn, and he signed up, I think it was the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers, I think. And he was then stationed in East Africa, and I do have some photographs of him in his shorts and bush hat, and he was there with his cousin Otto and their friend Wolfie, and I knew that he came back from the war and arrived at Pembroke Dock in South Wales, and they came back on the ship from the war. But that's all I knew at the time. I didn't know any history at all. It was all Laura that told me some of it, but not all of it, obviously. My mother didn't want to talk about it. She wasn't very pleased that Laura wanted to talk about it. So Laura would talk about it mainly when we went to visit her, you know, in London, without my mother there, but she wouldn't tell us everything. My mother, Flora, and Laura were very, very different, as I knew them anyway. Laura never married, but she worked all her life, and she had a very good job in London, working for the Ministry of Transport. And she had holidays and travelled, and she had a lot of friends, and she had a good life, an enjoyable life. Whereas Flora, my mother, was married, had children, and was the homemaker. And I think there was perhaps a little bit of jealousy between them, in that they did argue a lot, and I think that Laura perhaps was a little bit jealous that she hadn't had children and a family. And my mother was jealous because Laura was living the high life in London and she was there at home, you know, happily with a family. But I think sometimes there was a little twinge of jealousy. I don't know how or when she actually came to England, but I know she came with Laura, and they settled in London, in Kilburn, and started to learn English as well as my father. And then with the war, I think they all signed up into the army.
Did you not ask after your grandparents?
I never asked after my grandparents. I just thought they died before I was born, which they were. They were never spoke about them. And usually children's sort of time with their grandparents are the best times, aren't they? But no, I never questioned it. I accepted everything that was told, and they made us feel like we shouldn't ask anything. It's only from pictures and the things that Laura then said. Laura did tell me that on Kristallnacht she remembers seeing her father, Alois, being taken away. And that's all I knew. She didn't say any more about what happened to them.
And when did you get out some information?
I didn't get any information until, my mother died first, and then my father a year later. But before he died, he gave me some papers and documents that he'd got and asked me to burn it all. So I took the papers away and had a look, and some of the things I did, personal things between him and my mother, and had no bearing on history at all, but it was private, I did destroy. But the other papers are the things that I found since, actual good historical value. And then a few months later, my aunt Laura died, and she gave me, we cleared her apartment and found a case full of letters and pictures and documents and things, which I have now. They must have known that one day these things would come to light. He must have known when he gave me these photographs and documents that I would look at them. Perhaps not, perhaps he trusted me to burn them when he asked me to, because I'd always done as I was told. Yeah, so... but seeing some of them of historical value, I couldn't do that. But he didn't see that as historical value. My sister is 8 years older than me, and she was born in 1947, which was 2 years after the end of the war. So I think she had the burden of their suffering, which is why she sort of is not very happy with me right now. But I will. She knows I'm here in Neupölla, and she hasn't spoken to me about it since I told her. But when I go home, I'll show her photographs and share them with her and say, look, you know, this is how it is now, and I think you might like to visit at some point. But she is in denial as well, so I think she did bear the brunt of their suffering and the way they wanted to bring us up as a family. But you can't suppress somebody, which is how I feel. She can't hold me down and not go because she doesn't want me to go. Sooner or later, in any situation, it will come out. And it has to come out for this to never happen again. And talk about it to stop it from happening again.